Good morning. Look at this crowd. I will say this is very impressive. God, there's a lot of people up there. We in San Francisco have a problem of really thinking only about ourselves. And we never do a good job of bringing together communities like this. So kudos to you all for coming today, for participating, for sharing your ideas, giving me a minute to even spend some time talking about my world, and thank you. So let me first begin by introducing myself. I started my product career in hospital software, working with major academic hospitals. I then moved into the consumer space, which is dramatically different, the opposite end of the spectrum, with a company named Snagajob, which is a marketplace for hourly workers and employers. From Snagajob, I went to Prezi, which you may be familiar with if you attend a lot of conferences, what I call the world's best presentation software. And now, finally, I'm at a company named Hotel Tonight. We are a mobile-only booking tool, a marketplace for last-minute hotel rooms. So with this kind of experience, I suspect Martin and the Mind the Product team invited me here to talk about roadmaps or designing for mobile or something very product-y, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I want to take a minute and tell you a little bit about my life in product and really spend some time talking to the women in the room. So let me begin with a story. It was about a year, maybe 2 years ago now, finishing up a meeting. It's probably a roadmap meeting, right? Like, that's what we do. There are about 10 people in the room. I'm the only woman. It's kind of been 10 years of that, so that's not unusual. As we start finishing up things, one of the other executives in the room says, "Oh, I've got this great video I just saw. I can't wait to show it to you." And we kind of all huddle around his laptop. And he proceeds to turn on what's called the Hot Crazy Matrix. For those who are not familiar with the Hot Crazy Matrix, you can YouTube it, but here's just a clip that describes the essence of this video.
A man needs to know about women. I've developed this on my own over 46 years of living on the earth. So this is how it works. You have your crazy axis and your hot axis. Hot is, as usual, measured from 0 to 10. We're all familiar with that. Crazy is measured from 4 to 10 because, of course, there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least 4 crazy. It's like that. 4 to 10.
He goes on to fill out the matrix. If you have some time, you're welcome to investigate. I mean, I don't even know what to say. The unicorns, this isn't what we mean by unicorns in Silicon Valley. But as we were watching this video, and of course I'm laughing on the outside, it's the innuendo is funny. On the inside, I'm screaming. And I'm screaming because this is another meeting and another experience in my product life where, as the only person in the room like me, I can't help but think, are you people crazy? Is this I'm the one on the Hot Crazy Matrix? You men are crazy if you think that this is a normal way to interact, and that this is how you're going to run your company, and that this is how you're going to think about the 70% of consumer spending that is controlled by women. You're going to put us on a matrix in a business meeting? So that's life in product management as a woman. I really want to talk to the, shockingly, it looks like 30%, which is awesome, of the people in the room who are women. We are a minority. I am not going to preach to you about how we need more women in technology. I am not going to preach to you about what we need to change for recruiting or education. There are countless papers and articles about that you all know of. What I want to talk to you about are what are some real tactics on dealing with the cultural environment, the bromance that is product and development these days, and what can you do differently on Monday to ensure that you're successful in this world. I'm going to reference a number of clips from HBO's Silicon Valley. Does anybody know HBO's Silicon Valley? Yeah, we've got a couple viewers out there. For those who haven't watched it, it's a parody by HBO, making fun, really, of startups and Silicon Valley. But I'm a big believer behind every joke is a little bit of truth. So let's talk about life in Silicon Valley and product management. Ladies, it's competitive out there. The men are competing with each other, and they're competing with you. Here's my favorite clip that I think as product people you'll appreciate.
You see what he's doing, right? He's trying to get us to compete so we work faster. He thinks this wall of Psych 101 MBA mind control bullshit is going to motivate us.
Fine, don't compete. Do them at whatever speed you like.
Jared. I know these guys. I really don't think Scrum is going to work for them.
Okay, well, just trust in the system.
So we're going to work at a nice leisurely pace, right?
Sure.
But why are you tapping faster?
I'm not. Maybe my leisurely pace is just a little faster than yours.
Oh, cocksucker.
So it's a competitive world out there. The reality is, if you're working on a product and you're a product manager and your success is measured on a qualitative factor, you're probably in trouble. 80% of the people in the room are men. The worldview is different. That's great. That's fine. But what that means is you're going to a world where you may not know what success is, and you can't define it. I challenge the women in this room to get to products where your success is measured in quantified numbers. I challenge all of you, really, but particularly the women. I learned this very early on in my career when I was at Eclipsys. I got moved into the product team. I was very excited. It was my first crack at being a product manager, and I was given the radiology product in our ancillary department. Ancillary products are a nice way of saying we don't care about you and you're not important. But that's okay. Because when I had that air cover and everyone was worrying about how people felt about the main product and all the debates over feature sets, I was in a corner with a number of revenue and adoption. And that was what I fought on. And that's what I reported on. And every day, I made it my priority to talk to users, to understand customers, to understand competitors, see where we were breaking down in both adoption and revenue. And then quarterly, we can report on revenue and adoption. Find your number. If you don't know right now how your success is being measured, you've got a lot of work to do. Go figure out what metric it is that you're moving for the product and how it is you're going to take things from lower left to upper right. Everyone's competing. We might as well get on the same playing field and figure out where the goal line is. A great example of this, Marissa Mayer. I'm sure you are familiar with many of her stories. The one thing she did an outstanding job, there were many, but one of the things for which she's most known for is making sure her results were measured. She quantified all of her tests. She took qualified user research, scored it, and had metrics around that. She was maniacal about making sure she had a number, making sure she was measuring her impact, making sure it was clear how decisions were being made and what was most important. We can all argue whether or not we really need a test with 40 shades of blue to figure out the right blue. But at the end of the day, you knew exactly what she was doing, you knew exactly how she was performing, and you knew exactly what her goals were. So, facts are stubborn things. And in a world where we are all competing, we're competing with each other as well as our competitors, we might as well get clear about what the goal line is and what the facts are. Expectations. As the only woman in the room, I find there are still a lot of expectations that I may or may not live up to. Here's another Silicon Valley clip about some of the favorite expectations and pieces of advice given to women.
How am I supposed to tell them this? In my experience, it's best to look a person in the eye and deliver the information with warmth and compassion. Okay. One other suggestion. Dress unattractively when you tell them. I read a study. The less sexual interest they feel for you, the less perturbing it will be. It sounds strange, but it's credible. May I suggest the beige ensemble in which you came to work Tuesday?
Yeah, I bet there was never a time when the dudes got it commented on what they should wear in the office. But it's real. I mean, it's just real. There are expectations around the roles that women play. There are expectations about the work environment and how people are going to behave. And my advice to the ladies out there is we've just got to put on our big kid pants and we've just got to be more demanding and more vocal. Right now, we're in an environment, this is a very male-driven culture, and things are just louder. When things need to get done and you're selling your ideas to a group of engineers or a group of executives who are likely to be male, you have to be vocal. You have to advocate. You have to demand. It is uncomfortable to continue to put yourself out there. It is uncomfortable to get into deep arguments. It is uncomfortable to be the loudest one in the room. But my advice to you is you have to engage in these rules. You have to engage in the culture that's there. You may not like it, but you need to find a way to succeed in it. I was given this gift recently. These are note cards. And this is a nickname that has followed me for years. It was originally in a meeting we were doing. It was late at night, probably 11:30. Shockingly, it was a roadmap presentation, right? And we were with the team finally, putting everything together, presenting to the CEO the next morning. It was late, we were tired. We had most of the content in there. And the senior person on the team said, okay, we're done, let's go get dinner, get some rest, be ready for tomorrow. And I said, no, this is not good enough. We have to hold ourselves to higher standards. And ultimately, I made the team stay an extra hour so that we could get all the fonts right. Maybe that wasn't important, but it was important to me. It ultimately became an important part of the work product, but you have to demand the quality and be in the details and be vocal about what it is that you want. I don't know if you all are familiar with this woman. I'm gonna butcher her name. Her name is Ms. Jo Kun-fei. She is the world's wealthiest female billionaire. She's also the world's wealthiest self-made female billionaire. Ms. Zhou was a factory worker in China in her early 20s, and was working in electronics and really glass lenses. Felt as though she could do it a better way. So she got together with some of her coworkers and some family members and started a company. And today, if you own a smartphone, which I know many of you do, or you own a laptop, which I know a lot of you do, that glass lens is provided by Lens Technology. They are the leading manufacturer of glass in China. Ms. Zhou is known for walking onto the factory floor, demanding improvements, sitting down next to the workers, and even putting on her, I don't know what you would even call that suit, but to get ready and start putting her hands into actually making the product. She's that demanding about her product, she's that vocal about her expectations, and she is that willing to roll up her sleeves and get into the details. She will not back down from a challenge. She also lives in the factory. I don't know if I want to recommend that. That's a lot of commitment to a product. But I will say that you have to be willing to engage and have to speak up and advocate for what you want. Jack Dorsey, I love this quote. You can be successful if you make every detail perfect. You just have to limit the number of details. So, back to the demanding, back to being vocal, back to really living up to the expectations of a product manager, not your gender. You need to lean into these conversations and be vocal and advocate for what you want. Let's talk about fear. Fear in the workplace. Fear is something that I feel like gets shunned, gets poo-pooed upon, but we've all been in these situations where we're in over our head. In fact, I bet most of you are currently in over your head. I know I am. But no one seems to want to talk about that. And I see women respond very differently to situations of fear. So here's the scary scenario I'd like for you to picture yourself in.
That's not why I'm here. It's just watching you say no to $10 million to build your own thing. There's just something very exciting about that.
Exciting. Yeah, right. Scary as shit. But here's the thing. We have to be more willing to take these challenges and just accept that we don't know, but we're going to figure it out. I have worked with many women in my life, particularly in product management. And inevitably, when the conversation comes up about a new role, a new product, a new industry, I watch women qualify themselves as to why they may not be successful. I don't know about that. I've never heard of that. I've never tried that. I don't know. When I regularly watch the men say, cool, let's figure it out. I ask all of you to have a better attitude about fear. Just try. The worst you can do is fail. And you're going to fail, but that's the only way you learn. So, this woman is Tamara Mellon. Ms. Mellon was a co-founder of Jimmy Choo. For those who are shoe shoppers or know people who are shoe shoppers, Jimmy Choo is one of the highest end brands of shoes. Ms. Mellon was 23. She met Jimmy Choo. They had some great conversations. He convinced her that he was a shoe designer and knew everything about the shoe industry and they were going to take off. They got into business together. She was to run the business. He was going to manage the product. He was going to figure out shoe design. After about 3 months, it became pretty clear to her that Jimmy Choo, while a great salesperson, was not the product guy. He didn't know about shoes. He didn't know about shoe design. He had made promises that she didn't think he could keep. That was her moment to run. Instead, she said, screw it. I love shoes. I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to get in there and I'm going to learn about shoe design. And for the next 10 years, she spent every day working with factories in Italy, understanding the latest trends, trying to understand construction and materials, really designing and creating her product. She had no reason to be the only person running a shoe company. She had no experience. But these are the types of opportunities that when they come to you, you just say yes. Just try. You'd be surprised by how much you can get done. It's not that I have yet to take a role where I feel like, yeah, I'm qualified and I can nail that job. In the back of my mind, every time I take a role, I think, oh, I don't really know a ton about mobile development. I don't know a lot about presentation software, but I'll figure it out. And so my challenge to the women out there is to just figure it out. Don't say no, give yourself a chance, and try. The last thing I want to talk about is a hot topic in women's lit, if you will, mentorship. Mentorship, and specifically being challenged and learning how to brag about yourself. Here's a great parody about developer interviews. For anybody who's interviewed a developer, you've probably been through this conversation, but.
It says here on your resume that from 2010 to 2011, you crushed it?
But that's actually an old resume. It should also read that I crushed it from 2013 to present.
So are we to understand that you did not crush it in 2012?
There was a medical situation preventing me from crushing it to my usual standards, so I had to take some time off until I was able to crush it at 100%, at which point I resumed crushing it full time.
Crush it. I love that. And I love that especially because that clip had a woman in it. It would have been the most awkward thing ever, yet somehow with a young white dude, it's totally expected. Why is that? I would say to the women out there, you need to do two things. You need to find yourself a good mentor. And by good mentor, I don't mean someone who is going to be nice to you. An example of a good mentor, I sent this presentation, or an earlier version of this presentation, to one of my mentors who has encouraged me to speak on this topic. And he wrote back, "It's nice, but it's boring." It was a short email. Spent a lot of time on the presentation. That was a little humbling. At the same time, I had sent it to a friend who wrote back, "Sounds great." You know who my mentor is? My mentor is the guy who said, "That's boring, you can do better." And we all need people in our lives who are going to challenge us to work harder. I am lucky to be married to the greatest man in the world. And it is regularly that I come home and he says, "So when are you going to be CEO? When are you asking for the raise?" I say, "I just started the job." And he said, "I don't care. You can do better. You need to challenge yourself." We all need to be continually pushed. I don't mean we don't need to be supported, but I do mean we need to be told by people that we can do better and challenged to raise our limits. In order to make you feel better about those conversations, my recommendation is to keep a brag book. I've made it a habit since very early on in my career to spend the first day of each month just jotting down a couple of things I've done in the last month. Product releases, metrics we've hit, growth in the team, whatever it is are the key milestones. Having that list of accomplishments really helps for those conversations when it's just ugly and they're telling you that you're boring. So balance yourself out with both a brag book as well as having a great mentor who will challenge you to do better. So that's my girl's guide to success in product. I have two small footnotes that I just want to make sure I acknowledge. First, double down on the basics. None of this is an excuse for not being an essentially great product manager. You have to be amazing at your craft, and frankly, I think the expectations are higher on women than they are on men, and that's fine. I think that's a great opportunity to rise to the challenge. Maybe it's just Silicon Valley, but the reality is there are very few women in the room. They're not expecting that you can perform, and so you will be challenged twice as hard on your ideas as you will the men. Your product strategy is going to need twice as much data, 2 times as many user research points, whatever it is, just accept it. It's fine, you can do it. The other thing we need to work on, ladies, is eliminating doubt. I've been listening to myself as I've been speaking, saying, and I keep thinking, God, this is gonna be really tough to present. But the reality is, I have to do a better job about this, and we all do. When you start statements, don't say, I think this is a good opportunity. Of course you do, that's why you're saying it. Just say, this is a good opportunity. Own your language and don't leave question out there. Really commit to your ideas and just speak with confidence. So, it's been an interesting 10 years in product management. It will be a very exciting next 10 years in product management. I think there are a lot of opportunities out there, and it's fun to see so many women in the room. If I could have 30 seconds of the men's attention, I would ask you to think about how you treat the women in your organization. Think about how you treat the people who represent your users in your organization. This isn't about gender, but this is about advocating for the users. And your sole responsibility is to make sure that the best ideas get surfaced. Think about what kind of environment you're creating in order to get those ideas surfaced. So with that, if we genuinely believe we can change the world, I know we can. I'm excited to see all of you grow. I'm thrilled to be part of this community, and thank you for having me today.